What's happening, savages? You're listening to Immortal Coil, your oracle of whiskey mysticism. Revolution is my name. Today, we're standing in front of the AMC Theater in Tacoma, about to go see Doctor Strange into the Multiverse of Madness. And this is my non-spoiler review. 2022's Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness at 126 minutes is a lot more digestible than the Batman. Whereas the DCEU is more wary of the overall runtime in light of this Snyder Cut, the MCU, and we will get into that, seems to be less so. My first experience of Doctor Strange was actually not the fault of the studios, but of the little ticket counting guy that worked there. I walked in there with my phone and my little scan-a-code icon, and he proceeded to give me a set of little kid glasses. I got into the theater and ripped the thing open and threw it on my face and thought, what the hell? But even being despite maybe 17 years old, this kid totally rectified my qualm, so right on. It's hard to frame the overall context of this movie without going into super spoiler territory, but perhaps if I quoted a couple of movies and comic book titles that you should follow prior to coming in, you can get an idea of what we might encounter on the big screen. First off, you're going to want to be familiar with both Infinity War and Endgame. Then you're going to want to see WandaVision and Spider-Man: No Way Home. Those, I would say, would be the movie prerequisites, although you can go deeper into that if you want to. However, I think the comic book path would be more fruitful. 2005's House of M figures very prominently in the tapestry of the storyline here. Probably more so than WandaVision. Now, I wouldn't say go read America Chavez, but a cursory understanding of who she is and how she came to be will help give grounds to the basis of the film in the minds of the viewer. Which, if you told me that, I'd probably wait for it to stream. You're probably also going to want to be studied in the Marvel What If series, which is on Disney+. Again, I don't recommend you go get a subscription to Disney+. There's probably going to be some ways to consume that if you're at your buddy's house or, yeah. You're probably also going to want to be familiar with Sam Raimi's The Evil Dead series. There's some good cameos and callbacks to it. And it helps break up some of the MCU storyline that we eventually encounter. And yes, we do encounter. A major protagonist, antagonist, and central character to this movie, which somewhat served to edge out Doctor Strange in some regards, are all MCU people. And we knew this was coming. Kevin Feige has made statements to that fact that perhaps going forward, 50% of Marvel heroes are going to be female. Now, I enjoyed the first Doctor Strange. I thought that was a pretty good movie, but I enjoyed this one a little bit less. Whereas the first Doctor Strange I would have given possibly an 8 out of 10, I would give this one maybe a 6.5, 7 at best. It ain't terrible, but I wouldn't advise paying money to see it in the theater. And I will admit that perhaps the spectacle of seeing it in 3D bolstered its rating, in my opinion, because there were some pretty good visuals, but there was a fair amount of cheese in there as well. One thing I did dig was the return of Sam Raimi to the Marvel Universe. There were parts of this movie that absolutely felt like Spider-Man beats. And that's something I haven't experienced since the early 2000s. There are things in this movie that do touch on savage spirituality, but I cannot go into those in the context of this video, and I might have to do separate videos on those things. And that's one of the things I've always appreciated about Doctor Strange. Although at the same time, there are also things about this movie that touch on savage spirituality that are fictionalized and inconsistent with appreciation for the natural arts. And that's about all I can say about that thing as well. Not a bad flick. Not as good as Doctor Strange. Not as good as Spider-Man No Way Home. Because we're no longer dealing with Sony, we're dealing with the MCU. And I would say that it is only superior to the Batman in its ability to be concise. But we all know that Disney has an agenda. And the fact that the Multiverse of Madness is an acronym for MOM should give you about as many breadcrumbs as you need to decide if you want to pay money to see this in the movie theaters.